finances, all the topics your grandmother told you not to discuss with friends. And now, your host, Matthew Dowling, and today's guests on Commonalities.
Well, thanks for joining us again on Commonalities. I'm Matt Dowling, your host, and my guest today is Robert Gene Grimm. He's currently a township supervisor, but has recently thrown his hat in the ring as a candidate for Fayette County Commissioner. And I thought that it would be good to not only meet him, but meet some other candidates through the upcoming weeks. So hopefully you will join us for those episodes as well. Gene, I want to thank you for being on the program here today.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me. It's real pleasure being here.
Now, you're kind of a hometown boy, from what I understand about your background. You played sports and kind of with the environment we're in Fayette County right now with some amazing student athletes. I didn't want to get us off track, but I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of your sporting background and the coaches you played for and the schools you attended.
Yeah, no, we can start off playing football. I really enjoyed playing sports growing up. Grew up on a small dairy farm in southern Fayette County, actually Nicholson Township. But I argue my farm life and milking cows and chasing calves actually opened some opportunities for me playing football. And not toot my own horn, but I could run like the wind blew. Attended some Merle Hodge football camps. Merle Hodge was a running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I could, at a young age, I could run 40 yards in about 4.6 seconds. But had some opportunities. I actually played for 3 different high schools. I played for Albert Gallatin, 1 year. Played for Guyable. I was a Guyable Gator. Still have a soft spot for watching Guyable events. But I played under Jack Beener and Bill Beener through Laurel Highlands, Tom Sandella and Kirk Sahanage down at Guyable. When at a young age, I played under Joanne Embacher out at Albert Gallatin. So still keep in touch with a lot of my friends that I met along the way playing sports. So it's I tell everybody, any young kid that's even thinking about going out for sports, even if you're a junior in high school, and that's something that you kind of feel like, well, I'm pushing, I'm almost a senior. Go out for sports. I encourage people to play sports, and lot of good memories there. Especially, like I said, down at Guyable, a lot of good memories down there playing sports as a Guyable Gator. So go Guyable.
So before we get to the big question, which is what made you decide to run for county commissioner, I want to talk a little bit about your current background and the fact that you are a township supervisor in what I think is a unique township in Fayette County, Spring Hill Township. And you guys are in the very far corner of the county. I had the pleasure of, when I was in the State House, representing that township. But life's a little bit different there. You are a very agrarian society, but with the conclusion of Route 43, or that section of the southern section of Route 43, I know that some of that agrarian lifestyle has kind of been in jeopardy because of the development of some of that property. So why don't we talk a little bit about the challenges that you see in your township as you're currently a township supervisor?
Yeah, so currently, as you just said, I'm a township supervisor for Spring Hill Township. Spring Hill Township is the southernmost township in Fayette County. We're roughly right smack dab in the middle between Uniontown and Morgantown. A lot of our residents do their shopping, Morgantown. You can be there in 15 minutes, or Uniontown. Most people have not been down in the township. You mentioned 43 coming through the Mon-Fayette Expressway. Prior to the expressway coming through, there was no need for people to come down into the area unless we have some great historic sites down there. Friendship Hill Mansion is one of them. So a lot of people attend the Fall Fest down there in the fall, which is a really good event. Um, our township is made up with mostly small farms, rural communities, and that's why people have chose to live in Spring Hill Township. Current issues going on in the township right now, which a lot of you know about or have heard, out in Gans, PA, which is just a mile or so off the expressway there. Fayette County has some property out there that they're planning on doing an industrial park. Now, this prior to a few weeks ago, this land was zoned A1, or there was approximately 100 and some acres that was still zoned A1. And I argue it's some of the most beautiful land in our township. This land's been in corn and soybeans for the last 30 or 40 years. So my constituents, residents out in the township are basically just upset that we have some of the most beautiful farmland in the township, and I argue in a county that that's basically going to be destroyed, and factories and concrete is what's going to be currently what we've been looking at in corn and soybeans. So every time, and I drive through there on a daily basis, and through work with the township, but each day when I drive past those cornfields, I mean, it just saddens me, and I get frustrated that I just feel that as a supervisor and our residents, we didn't have a say in what was coming to our community. And as a township supervisor, my number one job is to represent the community as a whole. I can't even go back to our residents and say, hey, I got this for us. I never had an opportunity to negotiate something better for the community. A big issue with this, though, not only are they destroying the farmland out in Spring Hill Township, which again, that's why residents live out there. We really enjoy our wide open spaces and our farmland. We're near and dear to our land. But this is going to create some other issues in a township. Water issues being front and center. This is actually, if this project goes through, it's going to put us in a water crisis. There's 3 water authorities in a township. We have Albergallatin, Mountain Water Association, and then State Line Authority. All 3 of these water authorities are in dire need of water line upgrades. Albergallin's water plant needs rebuilt. And basically what Fayette Penn and Slater Engineering has requested, up to 3 million gallons of water a day if this factory goes in. And again, our water plant, is at max capacity. Unless we get some large grants or some investment in our water system, we can't provide the water. My biggest fear is the burden is going to go on the back of my residents, which a lot in Spring Hill Township, we have a lot of elderly that depend on Social Security, and we have a fairly large percentage that are on assistance for whatever reason. But if their water rates go up because Fayette Penn wants this water, I mean, I'm against that. I feel that there has to be another way, and we really need to sit down, roll our sleeves up, and and try to hatch this out and come up with something. And again, that's basically why I've thrown my hat in the ring for county commissioner.
Well, and it sounds like what you're talking about is the kind of the preservation of a way of life. And I know you're a conservative. You're a registered Republican, correct?
Correct.
And you want to preserve not just traditional family values, but also to preserve that way of life on the farm. And trust me, I'm no farmer. I grew up on the east end of Uniontown on a small city lot. In my teen years, we moved out to Manellin Township, had a little bit more property, about 11 to 12 acres, and I once plowed down the swing set with the tractor that we had. So, I'm not a farmer, but I have a huge appreciation for the farms that we have. And I want to circle the wagons back around because we were talking about development and the loss of farmland. And, really, when we look at farming, I don't know that everyone realizes or appreciates the fact that the declining number rather, of farms throughout the United States is creating what could become a real national security issue, because as we're forced to import more and more goods of produce, we become dependent on other countries. And before the show, I know you and I were talking in the newsroom for a couple minutes about how the war in Ukraine, no matter where you sit on that issue, and I know a lot of our conservative listeners are getting frustrated with the amount that the Biden administration has spent on that war. But really, that's a breadbasket of the world. And we're seeing a direct reflection of the cost of things like wheat and flour in our grocery stores because of that war in Ukraine. And, I am going to turn it over to you in a second to talk a little bit about preserving those farmlands. But, I pulled up, just as we came into the studio, an article on the USDA's government website, and it says, after peaking at 6.8 million farms in 1935, the number of U.S. farms fell sharply until the early 1970s. Rapidly falling farm numbers during the earlier period reflected growing production in agriculture and increasing non-farm employment opportunities. Now, since then, the number of U.S. farms has continued to decline, kind of at a slower rate, but the numbers, as we're looking at them, went from 2.01 million U.S. farms in 2021 back to just 2007 when we had 2.2 million U.S. farms. So, you're seeing in your township a microcosm of what's happening at a national level, but it is very concerning, even for a non-farmer like myself, that we're going to be forced to rely on importing farm goods. So I know you were talking a little bit about subsidies and things like that. I don't know if you have any comments to make about how important it is to preserve that farmland.
And you touch on so many points there, and you're exactly right. But basically, over 2,000 acres a day, this country's losing. And if you just think about that, 2,000 acres a day, and we're on track over the next 20 years or less than 20 years. By 2040, we will have lost over 24 million acres of farmland. And this is prime farmland. This is land that again, is some of the most productive farmland in the world that we're destroying. And you mentioned in Spring Hill Township, this is a micro of what's going on. And that's why it's so upset and frustrating. You want to, and I say this to the commissioners in Fayette Penn, you want to build a factory and create jobs. I'm all for that. But I'm against taking some of the most productive farmland in the county and putting your factory. And again, that's where I draw the line. But you mentioned the war in Ukraine. Look at what a loaf of bread is in a store. That's a direct result in how we're affected here on the homeland, this war in Ukraine. In the last 2 years, on a global market, wheat's doubled. And I don't have the exact figures, but I want to say somewhere around, wheat was $230, $240 a ton. It's now pushing $600 a ton because of what's going on in Ukraine. And I argue that Russia's there because they want their farmland and they want that breadbasket of Europe, so to speak. So again, it saddens me, and the main reason I'm throwing my head in again is due to what's going on with the farmland. And I think going back to Mr. Becker, I think and Mr. Becker's doing a great job, but he needs more help. And I think basically it just boils down to he needs more funding to go out and preserve these farms. I've had several conversations with Mr. Becker. Roughly, what the county is offering to preserve farmland is about $1,500 an acre, and basically what happens is they buy your development rights to where you can no longer subdivide that, build houses, or develop. But if you think about, they're offering $1,500 an acre, And from a developer, on the other hand, they're willing to pay $10,000 or $20,000 an acre to take this same land and develop it. We got to get that $1,500 an acre. And I argue these farmers should be offered a minimum of $5,000 an acre. So if on day one, if the good people put me in office, I'm going to sit down with Mr. Becker and say, hey, what can we do? What can I do? And who do I need to go meet with or to get you what you need to preserve more farms in Fayette County?
Now, I know that we've touched on this already about the importance, but I'm sitting here listening to you talk, and in my service as a state representative, I met very frequently with the Farm Bureau from Fayette County as well as the State Farm Bureau, and I was constantly endorsed by them in my elections. But that being said, you're a farmer. You come from a farming family, a farming background, so of course you're worried about these issues. But really, it comes down to the everyday person. And when I look at the population of Fayette County, being an aging population, we have a lot of senior citizens in this area. Pennsylvania as a whole has a lot of senior citizens, and those senior citizens are on fixed incomes. So when we talk about issues that directly involve farming and the cost of goods sold going up, that means that dollar that those senior citizens on that fixed income have goes a little bit less than it used to.
Yeah, and what's interesting about you just mentioned that, with inflation and the price of groceries and your basic goods in a store, this also creates some opportunities for small farms. We were talking about eggs. You got the pierogi cook-off coming up, and you were talking about just the price of eggs in a store. Well, my job when growing up, and this is all through elementary school, we had about 100 laying hens. And my job every evening when I got home was to water them, gather the eggs. And I'll never forget, on Saturday mornings, my mother and father would be cooking breakfast, frying eggs. Well, I was the one that gathered those eggs. And I was putting bacon or sausage on toast. I couldn't eat them because I was the one up in the chicken coop getting the eggs. But there's actually opportunities for small farms. And again, going back to just recently, my wife was up in Morgantown running errands, and she got a couple gallon of milk. She got a gallon of whole milk in West Virginia for $3 a gallon. A farmer cannot create that gallon of milk for $3. And what happens is the government, through subsidies and different programs, which are good programs, they keep the price of milk low, so your average family are getting basically the nutrients and things they need. And we just talked about everything going up from wheat, eggs. Do you know something that hasn't went up is the price of milk? And I still get a Lancaster farmer and a farm and dairy, but what's upsetting, milk's still right around $20, $22 a hundredweight. Now, these farms are getting some subsidies from the government, but there's a negative side with the subsidies. For one, let me tell you about my personal experience. My wife and I milked cows for about 15 years. At the height of our dairy operation, we were milking about 65 head of Holstein and some Jersey crosses, a couple Guernseys. But when COVID hit, milk prices dropped all the way down to $13 a hundredweight. My neighbors that milked cows back in the 70s, that's what they were getting for milk in the 1970s. We were dependent upon the subsidies each month to determine whether we were profitable or not. And just and I mentioned to you about the pride of being independent was taken away from us. And I went through some hard times, but I come out stronger and more educated on the other end. But my biggest fear with the subsidies, and let me end with this point, when our farmers are dependent on them, the subsidies, what happens one day in the future when those subsidies aren't there? And I just think that we're propping our farmers up for disaster on the other end. I think we need to get our farms profitable and sustainable. However we do that, but I think I think there's some good area leaders. I know I want to shout out to Richard Byrd that was on a radio station here a few weeks ago, and Richard's somebody that understands. I would argue more than anybody the bigger picture and issues that are going on. one thing Rich stated was first time in American history, South America is exporting more soybeans than the United States is. And if you think about that, these other countries are surpassing us. It's alarming, and there's no reason why the United States shouldn't be number one in ag at the global market. And I just, but we can't do that if we continue to destroy over 2,000 acres of prime farmland each day. And I'm again, I drew a line in the sand, and that land in Spring Hill Township, we need to preserve that. And I even have people that are willing to purchase that property back from Fayette County and to preserve that farmland. And God only made that land one time, so.
Well, and we were talking milk, and that is so important for our entire population. The most recent census data says that 69% of U.S. adults drink milk most frequently. 15% of Americans drink alternative kind of milks, and we'll save this topic for another point in time. But when I was in the legislature, I always thought that it was important for our actual milk that comes from cows to be called milk, and I would really like to see a reclassification of things like almond milk or soy milk, because in my book those aren't really milk products. But that's a discussion for another day. We have to get our first break in today, but I did want to make the announcement that if you are a candidate for any public office, whether you be a Democrat or a Republican, I invite you to email me at info@coordinated360.com. You can also find that information by visiting my website at matthewddowling.com. And let me know you'd like to come on the program, because in the next month or so, we want to share as many of our candidates' opinions and background with the voters at large throughout Fayette County. So again, shoot me an email or let me know you'd like to come on the program, and we'll get you on. But we're on to our first break here today on Commonalities.
You're listening to Commonalities, where guests find common ground through uncommon conversations. We'll be back after this brief break to recognize our sponsors.
Hey Fayette County, ready to give a helping hand and have a lot of fun in the process? Then come out to the Uniontown Senior Center on Saturday, March 25th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. for a pierogi making party hosted by me, Matt Dowling, and my wife Rebecca, as we make enough to feed 200 of our local seniors. Get all the details at www.matthewddowling.com.
I'm Melinda Delarose. As an assistant district attorney, I've protected Fayette County families and fought to uphold our constitutional rights. As a prosecutor and trusted local attorney, I've provided victims of crime with a strong voice and put criminals behind bars. My pledge to you as judge is to follow the law, always maintain the highest ethical standards, and to run a courtroom that's respectful of your time and tax dollars. I'm Melinda Delarose, asking for your vote for judge.
Paid for by friends of Melinda Delarose.
Is your business using analog strategies in a digital marketing world? If so, then contact Matthew or Rebecca Dowling at Coordinated 360 for a professional consultation, where we bring in-depth knowledge and functional expertise with a holistic perspective. Coordinated 360 provides digital marketing, paid ad and media buying services, web design, social media management, video production, and more for businesses, organizations, and political campaigns. With decades of experience, Matt and Becky at Coordinated 360 can help you craft your unique message and share it with the world. For a no-risk media evaluation and recommendations, call 724-320-2212 or visit us online at www.coordinated360.com. Find us also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or email info@coordinated360.com.
Are you enjoying the program you're listening to? Support Commonalities and help keep us on the air by making a donation of $5, $10, or $25, or any amount you feel comfortable sharing online at donate.commonalities.online. Again, that is donate.commonalities.online on the World Wide Web. buy our host a cup of coffee, or help pay for airtime at donate.commonalities online.
When it comes to buying a home, what you see isn't exactly what you get. That's why home buyers should call Dave Dowling at Grandview Inspections at 724-208-4108. You'll see colorful flowers, freshly painted walls, granite countertops, gleaming hardwood floors, and other touches. What you can't see is the cracks, ancient plumbing, dangerous wiring, or broken appliances that might be revealed when you hire a home inspector. And when it comes to home inspectors, knowing yours has the qualifications and experience needed should be your number one concern. Dave Dowling with Grandview Inspections is an architectural engineer with over 30 years of commercial construction experience and hundreds of inspections under his belt. A home inspection is an opportunity for you to hire an expert to walk through the home and prepare a report outlining the home's major components, what needs immediate attention, and what will require maintenance after you move in. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so make sure your investment is everything you hoped it to be. Call Dave Dowling at Grandview Inspections at 724-208-4108.
You're listening to Commonalities, where guests find common ground through uncommon conversations.
Well, thanks for sticking with us on Commonalities. I'm your host, Matt Dowling, and my guest today is Robert Gene Grimm. He goes by Gene, township supervisor down in the southernmost corner of Fayette County currently, but he's recently thrown his name in the ring to run for township supervisor, and we talked a little bit about his background as well as the background of Spring Hill Township, the fact that that's an agrarian kind of community down there, and the fact that he is very interested in preserving their current way of life, their conservative values, as well as preserving the farmland there. Gene, I'm going to ask you a question that is based in solution-focused therapy, and it may sound like a strange question, but sometimes when we set goals for ourselves, it can be very challenging to envision a world that's completely without problems. So my question to you is what they refer to as the magic wand question, and that is, if you went to sleep tonight and all of your problems were solved, when you woke up tomorrow, what would the world look like? And I ask that because as a county commissioner, you will have to be that magic wand to a good number of people. So what would the world look like if all the problems of Fayette County were solved?
Well, I tell you what, that's hard to envision. I've just over the last few years, and especially through farming, I faced many challenges, and when I talk about challenges, these were challenges just to pay the bills each month. So I would start right there and say, it would be nice for all the residents in Fayette County not to have to stretch those paychecks, to be able to go to the grocery store and not have to pick a product up and say, well, maybe next time, or have your young kids want a bag of candy and say, no, we're going to get a cheeseburger on the way home. So I would start right there and say, it'd be nice if people had the paychecks to provide for their family like they should have. And jobs. I know people that wake up early every day and they put in their 8 hours, 10 hours. A lot of folks work a second job, and again at the end of the month there's still always one bill that they can't pay, whether it's a water, electric. So I would start there with just jobs, creating good, decent jobs for folks that they can raise their family and provide their family like they should be able to. Want to talk about our tech schools and opportunities at our tech schools. When I graduated early 2000, 2001 actually, and I wanted to go to a tech school and take diesel mechanics or welding, but back then I had teachers that kind of said, well, this is gonna cut off avenues and roads if you want to go on to school. And looking back now, that wasn't true. I regret taking advantage of the opportunities that our tech schools provide. So I think that we need to do more for our tech schools, and there's great opportunities out there for young individuals that want to go for auto body and welding or diesel mechanics. And I would tell our youth this: just because you go to a tech school and you attend that you're not throwing in your hand and saying, okay, I'm going to be a diesel mechanic or a welder for the rest of my life. But I'll tell you this: you're going to get taught a trade that you'll have for the rest of your life. And maybe down the road you get laid off from a job, or you have an opportunity to do some side work or something. So I didn't attend tech school, but right after high school I went to a 3-month horseshoeing school. I'm a certified farrier. I have used shoeing horses throughout my whole life, and many a times between paychecks, or if I got a low milk check, I always kept a list of people that had horses, and I fell back on that training that I got that I found out later in life that was so valuable, and I used that. I could at the spur of the moment I could call a half a dozen people, and I could go make a couple $100. So our tech schools, I think there needs to be again through tools and thinking outside the box. We need to give our tech schools and our leaders that are running these tech schools everything they need, whether it's funding or even bringing in some outside to think outside of the box and do that sort of thing.
And I think a big piece of that is just destigmatizing what a tech school is. And you mentioned the fact that you were kind of steered away from that. We say this partially in jest, but my wife and I talk all the time and say that our boys, I have a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, can do anything they want to do as long as it is becoming a plumber or an electrician, because we just don't have enough of those people in the skilled trades. And that tech school is a great place to start. And as a conservative like yourself, I was never a big fan of the public sector unions that exist out there, but some of those private sector trade unions are a great way that someone coming out of the tech school can get a trade job with a union and then get up trained from that point in time to learn even more in their background. So I completely agree with you that our tech schools are a resource that we should be steering even more of our students to, because really they can build a life and a career directly from there.
And Matt, these are jobs that are paying $30-$35 an hour, and I mean there's a need, and I see it even at a township level that we upgraded our electrical system at the township building. We couldn't get somebody. Now we called around, and then finally we had a local company here, All American Electric, Kurt. They come in, but and Kurt even told me he can't get enough guys, and he's turning down jobs. So there's a need for these jobs, and you just said plumbing, electrical, and again these are good paying jobs where in nursing we could get into the nursing programs. There's a shortage of nurses. My mother is a lifelong nurse, still a nurse to this day. She runs a care facility in West Virginia. But my mother worked 2 jobs. She was a traveling nurse when I was young growing up, and then she was a trauma floor nurse at Reuben Memorial. But she basically put my father through law school. But we never seen my mom. She was always working, and then when she was home, she was resting to get ready to do her other shift. But so a lot of opportunities already here. It's just again we have to do more though. And I think that going back to the transparency and just communication on all levels between the county and our schools and our townships. So as a county commissioner, that's the big thing I would do, is just the communication and the transparency. But I tell you, in Spring Hill Township, what we experienced, the lack of transparency in the backroom deals and finding out about a major project coming into your township when the deal was already brokered and made, and not having an opportunity to negotiate something better for my residents, those days need to end. And I understand, and a lot of people say, well, Gene, this is Fayette County. This has been going on. This is how it is. Well, it doesn't have to continue that way. And listen, we got 3 good commissioners. I'm not here to say anything negative about Vince Facides or Scott Dunn or Dave Lohr. Do I think I could do better in some areas? Yes, sir. I wouldn't be running.
Well, we have to get our second break in here, and so we'll go to that, and then we will come back for final thoughts.
You're listening to Commonalities, where guests find common ground through uncommon conversations. We'll be back after this brief break to recognize our sponsors.
Hey Fayette County, ready to give a helping hand and have a lot of fun in the process? Then come out to the Uniontown Senior Center on Saturday, March 25th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. for a pierogi-making party hosted by me, Matt Dowling, and my wife Rebecca, as we make enough to feed 200 of our local seniors. Get all the details at www.matthewddowling.com.
I'm Melinda Delarose. As an assistant district attorney, I've protected Fayette County families and fought to uphold our constitutional rights. As a prosecutor and trusted local attorney, I've provided victims of crime with a strong voice and put criminals behind bars. My pledge to you as judge is to follow the law, always maintain the highest ethical standards, and to run a courtroom that's respectful of your time and tax dollars. I'm Melinda Delarose, asking for your vote for judge.
Paid for by friends of Melinda Delarose.
Is your business using analog strategies in a digital marketing world? If so, then contact Matthew or Rebecca Dowling at Coordinated 360 for a professional consultation, where we bring in-depth knowledge and functional expertise with a holistic perspective. Coordinated 360 provides digital marketing, paid ad and media buying services, web design, social media management, video production, and more for businesses, organizations, and political campaigns. With decades of experience, Matt and Becky at Coordinated 360 can help you craft your unique message and share it with the world. For a no-risk media evaluation and recommendations, call 724-320-2212 or visit us online at www.coordinated360.com. Find us also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or email info@coordinated360.com.
Are you enjoying the program you're listening to? Support Commonalities and help keep us on the air by making a donation of $5, $10, or $25, or any amount you feel comfortable sharing online at donate.commonalities.online. Again, that is donate.commonalities.online on the World Wide Web. Buy our host a cup of coffee or help pay for airtime at donate.commonalities.online.
When it comes to buying a home, what you see isn't exactly what you get. That's why home buyers should call Dave Dowling at Grandview Inspections at 724-208-4108. You'll see colorful flowers, freshly painted walls, granite countertops, gleaming hardwood floors, and other touches. What you can't see is the cracks, ancient plumbing, dangerous wiring, or broken appliances that might be revealed when you hire a home inspector. And when it comes to home inspectors, knowing yours has the qualifications and experience needed should be your number one concern. Dave Dowling with Grandview Inspections is an architectural engineer with over 30 years of commercial construction experience and hundreds of inspections under his belt. A home inspection is an opportunity for you to hire an expert to walk through the home and prepare a report outlining the home's major components, what needs immediate attention, and what will require maintenance after you move in. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so make sure your investment is everything you hoped it to be. Call Dave Dowling at Grandview Inspections at 724-208-4108.
You're listening to Commonalities, where guests find common ground through uncommon conversations.
Hi, I'm your host, Matt Dowling, and I'm beside our guest for today, Gene Grimm. And Gene, back in January, I wrote a letter to the editor that was published, and one of the things that it touched on was a fact from the Pew Institute that said that Americans say political leaders express their faith too little by 37%, rather than too much by 29%, which means that the average voter out there wants to know about your faith background. So I wanted to close out the program and let you talk a little bit about your faith and maybe what church you belong to and things of that nature.
Yeah, the church my family's currently going to is the Point Marion Church of Christ, Pastor Rick Szymanski, and I'll be honest, I wasn't always a churchgoer, especially when my wife and we milked cows for about 15 years. Sunday mornings, and Matt, when you milk cows, it's 365 days a year, twice a day. So especially when it just seemed like we were always trying to catch up or always behind. It wasn't until after we decided to sell the cows that we started going to church. But I can tell you this: I wouldn't be who I am today and where I'm at if it wasn't for my church family and Pastor Rich. Let me step back for a minute. My wife's name's Amy. She's been beside me, since we were married, and she gave me a little bit of heck when I decided to throw my hat in the ring for county commissioner. But she's behind me now. I wouldn't have decided to run. But 3 kids: Ethan, Katie, and Eli. My daughter Katie, every Sunday morning, is up bright and early, sound an alarm that everybody get up and go to church. Through the rough times of my life, and especially when we threw the towel in with the cows, one of the hardest things I've ever went through as a father, and even closing a business that we were so near and dear. The church family was there for me through those hard times. So I give a shout out to, again, Point Marion Church of Christ, and we look forward to going to church every Sunday, and with that there. So.
Well, the last thing I want to ask you, Gene, is if someone wants to get involved with your campaign, how can they do so? How can they get a hold of you? Things of that nature. Yep.
There's a webpage right now, Robert Gene Grimm for County Commissioner. There's going to be some more activity on that page. So people that are on social media, look up my page. I'm going to be running a grassroots campaign. And you'll probably see me. I got a great big beautiful buckskin horse, a Tennessee Walker. I'm going to be out campaigning on my horse. So if you see a guy with a cowboy hat on in your town, give me a shout out or come up and introduce you. I'll let you meet my horse. Also, through events. If we're going to be throwing an event probably next month sometime, probably at a fire hall. I'd love to meet as many people as I can, and even call me. Call me on the phone. I don't want to give my personal cell phone out this early, but my phone is always open, for folks that want to call.
Well, Gene, we want to thank you so much for being on the program here today. Again, if you're running for public office in Fayette County or within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and you would like a chance to come on my program where we can share your thoughts and opinions with the voters, please reach out. Visit my website, matthewddowling.com, and shoot me an email at info@coordinated360.com, and we'll get you lined up to be on the program.
One last thing, Matt. When are we making these pierogies? We're excited about these pierogies. So.
March 25th. I know you've heard a couple promos during this episode, but come out and help us at the Uniontown Senior Center. And this is all for today's episode of Commonalities.
This has been Commonalities, a show where guests find common ground through uncommon conversations. Copyright 2022 Coordinated 360. All public rebroadcasts should be done with prior written approval from Matthew Dowling. All requests should be sent to info@coordinated360.com. Thank you for listening to Commonalities.